Everyone is talking about triads, and I'm sure if you want to get better with your guitar improvisation and you've already spent a bunch of times watching triad lessons and trying to figure out of what you need to do to get those triads into your solos. But how come that some of those triad solos actually sound very stiff and unmusical? On today's lesson, I want to go down in the rabbit hole and find out when triads actually sound good and when you actually shouldn't play the triads, but what you should do instead. Hi, my name is Ulrich and I've been a musician with thousands of gigs under my belt. I've been playing for 30 years. And during this time, I learned a thing or two on the bandstand. And on my YouTube channel, I want to share the things that I've learned with you, as well as share the things that I'm doing inside of TGT Academy with my students, where I help people break through their plateau level and reach a state of free expression with confidence and ease. So instead of just talking theory, let's just look at the practical situation. We got this groove, this jam here with two chords. It's just E minor 7 and it's B minor 7, or you could say E minor and B minor. I could play those two chords. So let me show you what happens if I just play the triads or the chord tones literally over this groove. So what do you think? You might say like, well, this sounds nice, Ulrich. Or you might say like, well, this sounds good, but you know, it's really like an empty information, or this is like not a solo. Yeah, this is not a story. This is like reciting words, right? So it's kind of the same as playing the raw scale, if you ask me. Yeah, you're basically just taking the bricks to build a house, and you're just putting the bricks on top and say like, yeah, look, here's your house, right? But there's so many other things missing to actually create a livable space out of these bricks. So let me share some thoughts. The way I think about the triads is that the triads are mainly a skeleton, or in other words, they're like the holding structure, but they're not really the meat, if that makes sense. So let's give you a step-by-step action plan of what I would love for you to figure out. First of all, let's see if you can play the triads horizontally. That means up and down the neck and not just in one position. I'm here in a B drone and I'm gonna play both those triads. Yeah? So we have E, and then we have B minor. E minor. And B minor. So what's the difference if I do it like this? Well, the difference is that now I already have to think about voice leading a little bit. Yeah? I have to think of how I actually connect the lines between the E minor and the B minor and how they actually relate to each other. Yeah? So for example, there are some common notes in here. Yeah? If we take that E minor, it actually starts on the B here in the position, right? See how they connect? So now I already have a melodic motive. You see, this already sounds way more musical now, yeah? So we want to investigate basically how these two triads work together, yeah? We don't want to just isolated skeletons, but we're going to connect them together. And now we come to the second big thought that I want to share with you, and that is that we can also use the triads to target and to play around, be playful surrounding the triad. Yeah? Let me show you what I mean by that. We got a B pentatonic, right? So now, where's that triad in there? right? It's right here. So we got. You see how I'm playing around the triad? You see how I'm weaving my lines around the chord tones? And how I'm resolving it back to the essential notes. Yes, I know here is my third. I know this is my root note. I know this is the fifth. But I'm not just playing the bare bones, but instead I'm using phrasing and I'm kind of artfully anticipating those cool notes. Can you hear how much more musical this sounds than just playing the plain triads? And you might have noticed that there are some typical patterns that I keep using over and over. And you know, one typical one is that instead of playing 1, 3, 5, I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 5. So I'm playing, which is kind of like a hybrid between the triad and the scale, right? Yeah, so that's a really useful one. Let's see what happens if we also do this on the E minor, yeah? And then the B minor. And again, I'm doing this here with the drone because this allows me to not worry about the timing. It gives me just more space to explore. And I'm not rushed, right? I don't need to make the 1 bar or the 2 bars, however long the progression is. So I can just stretch it out and like basically be in the tonal laboratory exploring. Let's give this a try. I'm using B drone and I have the E minor here. And then I have the B. I'm also having the pentatonic in mind. B minor, E minor now, yeah? Now I'm in B minor again. So whenever I hit that G note, then I pretty much, it sounds like I'm going to the E minor, yeah? Do you see how artful that sounds already now? So this is way different than just playing the plain triads, and as you can hopefully tell, this is way more musical. You need to spend a little time with this, and you know, this 2-chord progression makes it kind of easy to explore because you have all the time in the world to explore the connections between those 2 notes. Now, it's good that we know the triads, because if we didn't, we wouldn't be able to play those lines. Yeah? We wouldn't be able to visualize it the way we do. But at the same time, we're not playing the triads literally. All right, but I got a third one for you. Because so often we have the chords in front of us, right? And then we have the E minor. Of course, we want to play E minor over that. And then the B minor, we play the B minor over it. And we make those changes right on the downbeat of the measure. So we're not really playing through the chords. We kind of stuck to those beams, rhythmical beams. So what if I told you that you really don't have to do that, but instead you can just play freely across the bar lines and the chords and almost randomly change back and forth between the E minor and the B minor? Would you believe that? Let's see what it actually sounds like. I'm going to pull out the backing track and then I'm just going to play the same lines that I was doing before, but I'm gonna stretch out the B minor over the E minor and vice versa. Play some E minor over the B minor. And maybe now you will be able to hear that this also sounds really, really cool. Let's do it. So cool. Could you hear the freedom that I had here? Just developing my ideas abundantly over the two chords. And I was basically like a dancer or a juggler. I had all the chord tones of both the chords, and I was just like playing back and forth. And that gave it so much more of an appeal than if I was just like hitting the triad notes over each chord. Yeah? So what I'm trying to tell you here in this lesson is that these are all just the beginning stages of learning how to play with chord tones, is to arpeggiate the chords and play the right chord tones over each chord. But then eventually the implementation of knowing the triads is really an artistic task. It's really about hearing the lines that you want to play, about rhythmical development, taking a rhythmical cell and moving that idea into different note groups. Also phrasing wise, whenever you have a linear idea, basically, you have something that goes somewhere. That's when the musical storytelling really starts. So I want to encourage you to start thinking more in terms of story, and then just using whatever you have available as tools to tell that story. Some of it can be just with bluesy pentatonic licks, but you're telling a story, so it's not noodling anymore. And some of it can be with those triads or even arpeggios. Arpeggios are basically bigger triads strung together. And some of it can be maybe fragments of a scale sequence or stuff, but I was using all that in my demonstration before, but it didn't feel like I was constructing it technically, right? But it felt more like I was in a creative flow where I was just like floating through the sounds, right? And that's also where I would love for you to end up being. So just do your best in implementing these 3 triad strategies into your playing, and know that once you learn the triad shapes, you don't need to just run them up and down the fretboard anymore. It's just kind of like practicing scales, just running them up and down. It's the same thing. As a musician, you don't need to do these unmusical practice tasks. I give you permission to move on to more musical tasks. So use drones, use this backing track down below here, and let's see where this will bring you. So I hope you enjoyed this lesson today and it was helpful and inspiring for you. I gotta tell you that this is just one of the many approaches that we use inside of our TGT Academy to help you get to a state of confident lead guitar improvisation in many styles, but a little bit more inspired by the soulful guitar heroes like Hendrix, Gilmour, Clapton, and so on and so forth. So if you like this playing style, if you like the way I teach, then I want to invite you to fill out an application via the link below here, where we can just get to know you a little better, and we will send you some additional resources that will help you on your guitar journey. And if it seems like we can help you in person, then we also have the chance to schedule a Zoom call and really get down to business. But this is only for people that want fast results, that are tired of the trial and error, and are somewhat serious about their guitar progress. All right, and while you're on this channel, you might as well watch this lesson here next. Keep on rocking.